When I look back at that afternoon, I can't help but laugh, partly because of how ridiculous it all was, and partly because it reminded me that life is sometimes best lived when you don't take it too seriously. My name is Melissa Carter. I'm 32 years old, a freelance illustrator, and the proud aunt of one of the most energetic kids you could ever meet, my 9-year-old nephew, Ethan. Ethan had always been fascinated by dinosaurs. Since he could talk, he had been naming them T-Rex, Triceratops, Velociraptor, with the same enthusiasm most kids reserved for cartoons. His bedroom was filled with dinosaur figurines, books, and even bedsheets covered with prehistoric patterns. You couldn't walk into his room without feeling like you were stepping into a miniature Jurassic Park. That Saturday, my sister Amanda had called me to see if I could watch Ethan for the afternoon while she ran some errands. I agreed instantly. I loved spending time with him, and I also knew it would be a nice break from the quiet monotony of working alone in my apartment. When I arrived at Amanda's place, Ethan greeted me at the door wearing a paper headpiece he had clearly made himself, jagged white teeth cut out and taped around the edge. His eyes sparkled with excitement. "Aunt Melissa," he shouted. "Today, you're the prey, and I'm the predator." I laughed, trying to process his words. "Oh no, what does that mean exactly?" "It means," he said, lowering his voice dramatically, "that you're a tiny human and I'm the mighty velociraptor, and you have to run." Before I could respond, Ethan let out what I think was supposed to be a dinosaur roar, though it sounded more like a mix between a growl and a sneeze, and lunged toward me. I did what any reasonable adult would do in such a situation. I screamed playfully and bolted down the hallway. Ethan's feet thundered behind me as he chased me through the house. It was amazing how quickly he could move for such a small person. His little hands reached out like claws, and every time I turned my head, his grin got wider. I darted into the kitchen, pretending to hide behind the counter. "You can't hide from me," he yelled. I made a run for the back door, hoping to get a little fresh air in the yard. The moment I stepped outside, Ethan was right behind me, roaring again. I ran around the patio furniture, zigzagging to throw him off, and nearly tripped over Amanda's garden hose. It felt silly, but there was something liberating about letting myself be part of his imaginary world. For that moment, I wasn't an overworked adult with bills and deadlines. I was a helpless villager running from a dangerous prehistoric beast. At one point, Ethan cut me off near the flower beds. "I've cornered you," he shouted, crouching down in an exaggerated dinosaur stance. I raised my hands in mock surrender. "All right, you win, mighty velociraptor. What happens now?" He looked around as if he hadn't thought that far ahead. Then his eyes lit up. "Now, you join my dinosaur tribe. But first, you have to prove yourself." And so began the prehistoric trials, as Ethan called them. First, I had to hop across the yard without touching lava, which was apparently the patches of dirt near the fence. Then I had to collect rare dinosaur eggs, which turned out to be pine cones from the corner of the yard, and bring them back to his imaginary nest. We spent hours like that, running, laughing, and inventing scenarios. At one point, he decided we had to hunt for food, which involved us pretending to chase invisible prehistoric chickens. We even built a fort out of lawn chairs and blankets, which Ethan claimed was our dinosaur cave. But the best moment came near sunset. The golden light was spilling across the yard when Ethan suddenly stopped, holding up his hand. "Shuh," he whispered. "Do you hear that?" I played along. "What is it?" His face was serious. "The great T-Rex is coming." We froze, both of us pretending to listen. Then, without warning, Ethan took my hand and said, "Run." And we were off again, racing across the yard, dodging imaginary trees, and laughing so hard I could barely breathe. Eventually, we collapsed onto the grass, both of us out of breath. Ethan's face was flushed with excitement, his hair sticking to his forehead. "That," he said between breaths, "was the best hunt ever." I smiled at him, feeling a warmth in my chest that had nothing to do with a late summer sun. "It really was, buddy." Amanda returned shortly after, finding us still in the grass, surrounded by our prehistoric world. She laughed when she heard what we'd been up to. "You're a good sport, Mel." Driving home that evening, I realized that Ethan had given me something I didn't even know I needed: a few hours to let go of the stress of adulthood and remember what it felt like to just play. No phones, no responsibilities, just imagination and joy. The world can feel so heavy sometimes, but that day, my nephew reminded me that happiness can be as simple as running across a backyard, pretending to be chased by a dinosaur. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that memory for anything.